Huzzah! Today we have a video for you talking about why Captain America was right in Captain America Civil War. Now, personally, for me, I always thought Captain America was right. Even from way back when Marvel Ultimate Alliance was out, I always chose Captain America because I always felt like he was correct and Iron Man was not when coming and talking about the Sokovia Accords. Given every superhero's identity out, the biggest one being Peter Parker, which this video does talk about. So let's go ahead and jump into that video. So Mr. Enterprise here today has an Iron Man was wrong in Captain America Civil War. So let's go ahead and watch this. I watched a little bit of it and I was like, oh, this might be a good video now that I'm out of school and I'm on break. Let's try and make some more videos, huh? So let's get in this video.
About Captain America Civil War is that there are really strong arguments. One thing I like about Captain America Civil War is that there are really strong arguments for both sides, even if you prefer one side over the other.
I still think Captain America has the better argument than Iron Man does. Yeah, Iron Man's whole thing is, oh, we did a bad thing and everyone should know who did the bad thing. I think Captain America's
can see where Tony
argument is right on this.
Stances on the Sokovia Accords. It's easier to side with Captain America in the Civil War comic due to one of the requirements of the Superhero Registration Act being that any U.S. citizen with superhuman abilities must register with the federal
identity,
including them having to publicly reveal their secret identities. The biggest example of this was when
Spider-Man
revealed himself to be Peter Parker to the public when he initially joined Team Iron Man. I know J. Jonah Jameson was tweaking when he first saw Peter under that mask.
He's like,
Peter Parker? What? Peter Parker Spider-Man? Are you kidding me?
Day is honestly one of my favorite MCU movies. I remember being way too excited for this movie's release in theaters. The marketing went crazy.
It was pretty good. I think we watched this in movies.
Craziest debate
in the theaters.
I know many people would take the side of Iron Man.
I know I've seen it a couple times.
Unfair advantage in having beloved characters like Black Panther and freaking
Iron Man had a stacked team on this. You got War Machine, Black Widow, Infinity Stone. He has a freaking Infinity Stone on his side. And then Black Panther.
And as he had the unfair advantage.
Oh, and don't forget Iron Man. Hi guys, editing me here. I meant to say Spider-Man, but I'm kind of stupid, so yeah, I said Iron Man while I was recording this. See ya.
Black Panther and
freaking
Spider-Man, which was their
it's such a stacked team.
You should have seen me when they first revealed Spider-Man in that trailer. I was geeking out.
All right, I ran out of patience. On to ruse!
When it comes to the really good Accords in the general plot of the film, there's only one side that's the correct answer, and any other answer is just simply incorrect. The definitive side, of course, would be the side of my good boy Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, the first Avenger, the GOAT Avenger.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
You know, the guy that stands up for what's right despite what the government tries to
always stands up for what's
right. The same dude who held Mjolnir during the third act of Endgame, delivering an all-timer of a line with the Avengers by his side. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with him. Actually,
I'll go with
Iron
him too.
Man was morally correct throughout the entirety of Civil War.
Incorrect.
Now, I'm not trying to discredit Tony Stark here. He is one of the best characters in this universe, and the first Iron Man spearheaded an entire cinematic universe. However, in Civil War, one side has Iron Man and the other has the greatest Avenger in the MCU. Sorry, not sorry, I don't make the rules. You don't believe me or think I'm spewing nonsense? Go ask Deadpool. A big reason as to why I think Cap is on the right side is not just because I like glazing him or anything, even though all the glaze is justified. It has to do with how the Avengers being controlled by the United Nations isn't necessarily the way to go with how easily corruptible these organizations can be. Now, yes, Tony brings up a good point with the destruction they've caused, very noteworthy coming from the guy who created Ultron. A woman also confronted Tony in the beginning of the film about how her son was in Sokovia but died due to the Avengers Ultron battle. Hell,
and that's something that Captain America understands, being a war hero. He knows that lives are gonna be sacrificed. Lives that shouldn't be sacrificed are going to be. That is part of war. Good guys die. The bad guys also die. Sometimes the bad guys do win eventually. And that's just war. and that's
Main
gonna happen.
villain
And
of
Captain
Civil
America
War,
knows that.
Helmut Zemo, only wants to destroy the Avengers because his family died in Sokovia. But the government has shown its fair share of reasons as to why it can't be trusted.
Security Council. It's not SHIELD. It's not Hydra.
No, but it's run by people with agendas, and agendas change. If we
There
sign
you go.
this, we surrender our right to choose. What if there's somewhere we need to go and
Politicians.
they don't let us? We may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own.
Steve's stance
that's
on the whole
100%
situation is
true.
corroborated by many scenarios that have
100%
already
true.
happened or will happen in the MCU timeline, like S.H.I.E.L.D. being secretly overtaken by Hydra ever since the collapse of Hydra after World War II.
Shield. Marvel's Agents of Shield goes way in depth in that, and it is such a good series. And it is such a good series. Gosh, I wish they could have kept going with how good it was. Just Marvel's Agents of Shield just it really fell off after a certain point.
It was secretly
And then once it was canon, and then it wasn't canon, and they went their own way, and it was just Marvel's Agents of Shield is still a really good TV show.
rebuilt inside S.H.I.E.L.D. since the 70s thanks to a Swiss scientist who used to work under the Red Skull named Armin Zola. There were several members of Hydra outside of S.H.I.E.L.D. in modern times, holding various positions within the World Council and the US government. Like that one random guy from Iron Man 2, he turned out to be a part of Hydra. Alexander Pierce was an undercover operative in the US government who worked for Hydra, while simultaneously being at a high position of power in
he's gonna
S.H.I.E.L.D.
talk about
The Winter
the
Soldier
TV
movie
show.
sheds light on Project Insight, a plan involving Hydra agents within S.H.I.E.L.D. using airborne helicarriers to eliminate anyone who could pose a threat to their plans.
Zola's algorithm is a program for choosing Insight's targets.
What targets?
You, Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange, anyone who's a threat to Hydra. Now or in the future.
Did y'all forget the fact that Nick Fury's superiors in the World City Council literally wanted to send a nuclear missile at Manhattan during the Battle of New York in the first Avengers film? Even Nick Fury saw the lunacy in that decision, was like,
I recognize the council has made a decision, but given that it's a stupid ass decision, I've elected to ignore it.
and if it wasn't for
It's such a good meme. Oh my gosh, that is such a good scene.
Iron Man taking the missile up into the wormhole toward the sanctuary, New York would have been blown to bits. I'm failing to see why it's a good idea for the Avengers to only go on missions under the supervision of these people. In the vein of government-controlled superheroes, look at what happened when the government had their own Captain America via John Walker and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier after Sam gave up the shield in the museum. He killed one of the Flag Smashers after his friend Lamar died in combat, but because he did it in a public way, he was viewed as irrational and out of control and was forced to step down as Captain America. On top of that, Bucky and Sam had to forcibly take the shield away from John Walker and double teamed him. The same guy who briefed the Avengers on the Sokovia Accords, Thunderbolt Ross, allowed Emil Blonsky to turn to the Abomination and spend a lot of his time trying to capture and take down the Hulk. Who knows what crazy shenanigans he's going to involve himself in as Red Hulk in Brave New World. Funniest part about all of this is that there was a brief period in Civil War where Steve considered the possibility of signing the Accords, directly saying how it's not impossible for him to sign, there just needs to be safeguards or assurances that the rules established won't be misused. Him and Tony are discussing this in Berlin once the authorities caught up to Bucky and Steve, as Tony was trying to convince Steve to sign. But their conversation goes downhill once Steve finds out Tony had kept Wanda confined to the Avengers compound and ordered Vision to make sure she never leaves.
Wanda, what about Wanda? She's fine. She's confined to the compound currently. Vision's keeping her company.
Oh, God, Tony.
She's not a U.S. citizen, and they don't grant visas to weapons of mass destruction.
She's a kid.
Give me a break! I'm doing what has to be done.
She likes
to stave off something.
Was she still a kid in this movie?
The craziest part about all the drama
super
between
old
the
in the
Avengers and them
recent movie
essentially
she was
breaking
in.
up at the end is how the Sokovia Accords had no lasting impact in the MCU. You see in Infinity War General Ross get dismissed by Rhodey and he's like, yeah, screw you, man. Or Captain America telling him to stay out of their way. Matt Murdock in the She-Hulk show went up against Jennifer Walters during a court case in which he briefly goes over the fact that the Accords are pretty much meaningless now.
Making suits exclusively for superheroes necessitates anonymity. May I remind you that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed.
You take a good look at Team Iron Man's roster and realize half of them were with him for ulterior motives outside the Accords. T'Challa mainly wanted revenge against Bucky as he was framed for bombing the United Nations in Vienna, which ended up killing T'Challa's father T'Chaka in the process. Peter Parker wasn't really briefed by Tony on the intricacies of the Accords and why Captain America was running away in the first place.
He should not be on
Aunt
Iron
May
Man's
in
side.
Peter's apartment is like, say, bro.
Realistically, Peter Parker should not be on Iron Man's side. His whole thing is no one knows who he is. Like, that's why he wears the mask. There's no point in a mask if you know who's under the mask.
to go to Germany?
I can't go to Germany.
Why?
I got homework.
Homework.
Pretend you didn't say that.
No, I'm being serious.
Look, kid, there's a lot going on here that you don't understand.
He should be on
Stop saying
Captain
say
America's
that.
side.
Start talking
And
to
I
me.
think in maybe I'm wrong on this, but in Ultimate Alliance, I'm pretty sure Spider-Man is on Captain America's side. But probably for the movie, maybe not. Oh man, it's been so long since I've played that game. It's a really good game.
Else that you're wrong, you think you're right, makes you dangerous.
You got hard, kid. Where you from?
Queens.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Natasha prevented Black Panther from catching up with Steve and Bucky, and she allowed them to use a Quinjet to try and catch Zemo in Siberia. When he finally caught up to Steve and Bucky, T'Challa discovered that it was Zemo who bombed the UN while T'Challa was eavesdropping on their conversation. Then in the post-credit scene, T'Challa helped Steve sneak Bucky into Wakanda to help free him of his
Iron Man
brainwash.
doesn't really
It's
have
fascinating
anyone
to see
on
so
his
many
side.
people misunderstand Steve's
Realistically,
decisions.
there's
throughout
no
the
one on
course
his
of the
side.
film, saying he only did it to protect his best friend who wasn't deserving of his protection. First off, Bucky had been wrongfully accused of bombing the UN, and Steve, Sam, and Bucky were captured and taken to a facility where they watched security camera footage of a psychiatrist sent by the United Nations to evaluate Bucky. Steve realized that Zemo wasn't the real psychiatrist that was sent, but in fact was the one who bombed the UN and framed Bucky. Ever since Black Widow released millions of data files about Hydra to the public at the end of the Winter Soldier, Zemo uncovered information about the Winter Soldier program. He then uncovered a book containing the code words necessary to control the Winter Soldier. Zemo did this so that he could uncover all the information he needed on the mission report relating to the deaths of Howard and Maria Stark, which he would use to rip the Avengers apart even more. However, they believed Zemo might be traveling to the Siberian Hydra base to use an army of Winter Soldiers for his own personal gain. So Steve assembles a team of his own in order for them to travel to Siberia and stop Zemo. Thunderbolt Ross ordered Tony to apprehend Bucky and Steve and assembled his own team to stop them in their tracks when they all crossed paths in the airport. So Cap wasn't just doing this for selfish reasons and became a fugitive.
He had
was
a noble
literally trying to
cause.
stop Zemo. So they all have a big
Iron
tussle
Man
at the
did too,
airport,
but-
with Steve and Bucky being the only ones able to escape to Siberia. Tony found out Bucky was framed and Zemo being the true culprit. Then he followed them to Siberia thanks to Sam telling Tony about it after he was captured, and even went up to Steve being like, yo, let's call a truce, I was wrong. Unbeknownst to Steve, Tony, and Bucky, all three of them being together was all part of Zemo's plan, so that Tony could see the recording of both his parents being murdered by the Winter Soldier. This sequence of events is where I see a lot of debates, either in favor or against Captain America. Yes, Tony's reaction was justified as he
Sure,
just saw his
that
parents
would
get
be
murdered
justified.
right in front of him in a recording, and
Of
the
course.
man who performed those actions is standing right next to him. But it absolutely baffles my mind when people go, man, Captain America's a punk. I can't believe him and Bucky jumped an orphan when he just saw his parents get killed. Either we watch two completely different movies, or some of you lack media literacy skills. Bucky was brainwashed
He
by
was-
Hydra.
That's the whole point. That wasn't Bucky. That was the Winter Soldier that did that.
He had absolutely no control of his
That's not the same man sitting in front of them right this second. It is a completely different person. He was brainwashed.
actions. You think he willingly killed Tony's parents and enjoyed it or something? There are moments when he doesn't even remember his own actions when the Winter Soldier persona is activated with the right code word.
Exactly.
What did I do?
Enough.
Everything Hydra put inside me is still there. All you had to do was say the goddamn words.
It wasn't like Steve and Bucky ganged up on Tony on some demon timing. Yeah, Bucky killed your parents, so you gotta catch this fade, little bro. They didn't even want to fight Tony initially. Bucky was trying to run away because Tony wanted to kill him on the spot with zero hesitation. Tony was the aggressor here. Bucky was out here running for his life, and Steve was trying to stop Tony in killing his best friend. But they knew he wasn't gonna stop, so they did what they needed to do and fought him.
It's been a long time since I've seen this movie though. A lot of this I don't remember. I remember most of it, but the plot I don't.
Get out of here! It wasn't him, Tony. Hydra had control of his mind.
Move.
It wasn't him! He's not gonna stop. Go. This isn't gonna change what happened.
I don't care. He killed my mom.
Of course,
Let
a
him get up,
great
let him get
scene
up,
right
let him
here.
get up. Fight back, nigga. Fight back, nigga. Fight back.
I will admit, Steve not telling Tony that Bucky killed his parents was pretty foul of him. That's something he should have not withheld, and he was wrong in that regard. But did you really expect Captain America to just sit by and let his best and oldest friend get murdered for something he had no control over? I think you can make a strong argument.
I don't think Steve told Iron Man for that exact reason. of what happened. He was gonna kill him. I don't think Iron Man could separate Bucky from the Winter Soldier. I think that's why Steve never told him.
For Tony if he instead wanted to bring Bucky into the authorities for the death of his parents, but that's clearly not what he wanted to do. This man Bucky Barnes was forcefully brought into the Winter Soldier program after his supposed death and was brainwashed and tortured into doing Hydra's bidding. He feels guilty for all the killings he's committed, as seen in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They literally used electric shocks to wipe decades worth of his memories and turn him into the ultimate killing machine, constantly being frozen and unfrozen to perform assassinations. Bucky didn't kill Tony's parents, it was the Winter Soldier. Hydra's command. I shouldn't even have to explain the basic concepts of mind control and how it isn't Bucky's fault, but here we are. Again, I understand Tony acting out of anger, but Steve was completely in the right for defending his friend. If you disagree with that, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Go rewatch the movie. Man, I miss when the MCU used to consistently make bangers like this, back when we cared about the core cast of characters and felt like...
I think a lot of it had to do with what he's saying right now, is that there was such a big mystery around what's going to be next. What's around the next movie? What's around the next corner? We don't know. Now we kind of know everything that's gonna happen. You know, they're not following the comic books, but they're going down the path, and they're like, oh, this is probably gonna happen. And I think that's kind of, and another big part is not having good movies. That's another big part. Just not having good movies.
We, the audience, were on a years-long journey alongside some of our favorites. Good times, good times. Both Iron Man and Captain America had really
it was a
strong,
really good time when this movie came out.
Why they think the Accords needed to be enforced or rectified. But let's be honest with ourselves, Cap was always in the right. He was foul for not telling Tony about his parents, but other than that, my boy Steve did nothing wrong in my book. We are Team Captain America in this household. Both
all the way, Team Captain America, every single time. Every single time I play Ultimate Alliance, it is always Captain America. Always, always, always. Iron Man, he doesn't feel like it's the right decision to give everyone's identity away to the government. It does not seem like a good idea. Oh well. But go check out this video by Mr. Enterprise if you do enjoy that content. Please go make sure and watch him. And I hope you enjoyed this video today. Hopefully we'll have more very, very soon. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
New house, move quick, move slick, bitch bad, I took her, now you mad.